In a planet that was planet Clincalow, a small elite family were rich merchants, but this planet was ruled by a man named John Jays. His cohorts, Doral and his bodyguard, Kelly Blanc. Capri went through this world to find the elite Clincalow who will lead a new era and ensure that the universe was at peace and finally end the age of war once and for all. Capri found him. His name was Calvaughn. Calvaughn was a very intelligent man, but mostly a merchant. He owned many shops around the countryside, and he liked being outside. He had his cousin named Colton, who was an administrator, and his next cousin, Wendell, owned cosmetics. Bucko was his relative who was a wrestler, and Moxie and Jamie were his distant cousins, and they were a married couple, and various people. They were a rich clan. They had their own bodyguard system and everything else. But John J.S. ruled the planet with an iron fist. Corruption was everywhere. Calvaughn had a problem with it, but he didn't take much mind in the military to try to do something about it. And then Capri came up to him, they trained him, and we went out to the family, he trained them, and they was like, why the people in the planet will not follow us? Then all you gotta do is start campaigning, get the people's hopes up, be the leader which they want. Help this planet of Clincalow, the planet where conquerors come from, regain their pride once again and defeat this corrupt man. And Calvin Clincalow was not sure, but he gained confidence after, a rallying around Calvaughn, because they was planning to have an election. I wanted an election. And J.S. John, finally put down insurrection, killing innocents in the process. Calvaughn, Ned was convinced and was moved to lead the people directly to J.S. John's front step. And he watched through the front door. J.S. men did not want to fire upon the people, as the Clincalow were fighting elsewhere across the planet, destroying the barracks. And Colton and Calvaughn walked up the stairs towards J.S. John, and Kelly Blunt, his bodyguard, guard the front door. Calvaughn worked with his new sword and his new skills to beat Kelly Blunt, and Kelly Blunt felt a sense of determination and drive and decided to join him instead of John J.S. And then after that, Dora was John J.S.'s advisor, also joined Clincalow, and Calvaughn made it to the door of John J.S. And John J.S. is trying to escape, and then he's trying to pick up a laser to try to quickly kill Calvaughn. But Colton pushed his cousin aside and fired a gun quickly, killing J.S. And thus the plan was liberated from corruption. And Clincalow Bar once again, after so many years, floated upon high above their planet. And the race was on to unify the ensuring galaxy and end the wars of the universe once and for all. Outside that, the tripod people were fighting the newspaper, who were elder fighters, But it turned out the newspaper were being taken over by Nephilim spirits. There were giants, evil spirits, descended fallen angels, had taken over that land, and they were fighting each other. That was a very long distant war. And in order for Calvaughn, when they are on the rest of them to realize their dream of conquering the universe and restoring peace, they had to go through manufactions to get where they were going. And so as they began to travel and then cutting down, all the fools that resist them, they made it past a small mining planet named Pana. And Colton was trying to shield Calvaughn from the Pana's reality that these miners were not really workers but slaves. Pana and his people profited out of slavery. Calvaughn was one of a man of the people, and he called to him, we should just ignore them. We just here for fuel. We need to move on. We have a military campaign. This plan is small. And Calvaughn started to row his cousin and said, you think I'm so sniveling coward that I will just turn my back on these people. Just like our own people, these people need help. And so he started a military campaign in Panama, defeated its leaders, and liberated the people, ending the last slave bastion in the entire universe. This sparked great awe and amusement and curiosity about these Clincalow. They were different from the Clincalow of old, and maybe, just maybe, they might be worth looking into. But as the Clincalow were verge of conquering most of the independent galaxies, a new ensuring power will rise up. The generally led by Bolsheviks, right? And Bolsheviks was a cunning and shrewd commander. And what Bolsheviks and the generally were doing, they were working for the tripod people, right? And they got rid of the other resistance from the various planets that were conquered were trying to resist. So he sent some troops to assist them. And he worked with the tripod people who were increasingly becoming more and more human until they became fully human to defeat these giants. It was simple. Bolsheviks had a whole huge artillery, to defeat the giants. All they had to do was lure the giants, was false sense security, and lure them straight to the tribe people's main camp. The giants took the bait and were advancing. And then the heavy artillery, riflemen, all hell came, appeared out of nowhere using transporters and teleporters, bombarded the giants. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. The giants lost their, backing, their main front line, and then tribal people now fully human, along with the General forces and Bolsheviks advanced and crushed the Nephilim newspaper and ended them, and thus half of the universe belonged to them. And the King managed to got past this insurrection of rebellion that blocked their way to reaching the war before the war could end. Now the war was over, and tripod people were not going to join the Clincalow. This was Capri's worst nightmare. Now Bolsheviks, the leader of the Generali, now convinced the tripod people that it was their turn to rule the universe. And so the war between them was inevitable. Calvin Clincalow and all his family worked together to defeat the tripod people and send Bolsheviks and generally running. Bolsheviks was defeated by Calvaughn as they had a duel on the planet Movax, and there was a large volcanic eruption, and on the volcanic ledge the two hit their swords to one another, and then Calvaughn got the upper hand and caused Bolsheviks to slide down into the lava pit, dead. After such time, peace returned to the universe, and the Clincalow, mainly Mendia and Colton, decided the dimensions are a place of war, no more. We will build it as a beautiful metropolis, full of high-tech buildings, businesses, for all the dimensions to live. And so the dimensions turned to a barren wasteland of war to a magnificent metropolis, where the pride and economic power of the Clincalow lied. The people dimensions were stunned by all of this, and they accepted the rule of the Clincalow. But still, there were those that were discontented. There was a secret sect of scientists that were working in one of the high-tech buildings, secretly under Colton, nose, and Kelly Blog was guiding and protecting them. So these same scientists had a strange, being known as the Daemoniac. This is where the first Daemoniacs appeared. The last of its race with them, to resurrect it and to wake it and use it to defeat the forces of the Clincalow. They were descendants of royalty of the various other powers that was crushed by the Clincalow. As news, as Capri got news of this so-called rebellion um, that was about to happen, he raced to the dimensions. Then also, Calvaughn Jr. was finally of age, and he too was a great swordsmaster as well, like his father, and was visiting his older cousin Carlton at the same time. Then, all of a sudden, battle erupted. Androids from the Lao started attacking the main city. Blanc, Kelly Blanc tried to defend Carlton, who actually purchased some of those robots for his personal protection as the robots were turning against him. And Kelly Blanc pushed Carlton out the window and he defended off the robots, blowing up himself and the robots. Carlton managed to survive as he was saved by Moxie as Moxie was driving his hovercraft near the building. It was a hot mess. The whole city was a whole battlefield. And Calvaughn Jr. was in the main building. His father, was racing to try to get him and race towards him. And they dueled against the scientists and descendants of royalty. And after such time, Calvaughn Jr. confronted the Daemonarch, and him and his father worked together to beat back this powerful, um, evil being. And it was said once you defeated Daemonarch, you gain powers of a mighty man, even close to godlike abilities. And the Daemonarch, slaying his father, this infuriated Calvaughn Jr. Calvaughn Jr. went to stab to finish off the Daemonarch. The Daemonarch was dead, but because Calvaughn Jr. Did it in such an and angry way, his anger consumed him along with the power, turning his hair from brown to white, and his all clothes became all black, and his face was pale, and his sword was that of a mighty aura of darkness, and became the most powerful being in the universe. The Clincalow family had no choice but to side and join the new leadership of Calvaughn Jr. And Dora, who saw all of this, stunned and powerless to destroy and to fight against this new evil that had descended upon the universe. But after this time, Capri had passed away, having failed that Calvaughn Jr. had fallen to the dark side, and now King Carlo was free to rule the entire universe in darkness. But there was hope. An unsuspected quarter, as Calvaughn Jr. and his forces raced their ships to the makeshift planet Earth, where a mysterious being who called herself Queen Alexia was around. And Queen Alexia was a descendant of the ancient primes during the days of old and defeated monsters of demoniacs during her day and decided to retire on Earth. Her plans were simple: to reduce the universe back to a single planet once again, to prevent all these wars from happening, and she be the sole ruler of that planet. But first, she'll have to defeat the last of the great demoniac warriors, Calvaughn Jr. And so, this is where the two and their rivalry began. King Carlo launched the attack against Queen Alexia and her forces, and her personal advisor, Sue Guardian, was around as well, along with Holly Roy, TBR, and a host of others. Were determined to defeat the Clincalow. The Clincalow were in a deadlock, but Queen Alexia, and her powerful abilities and a lack of clothing, transformed herself into a vixen, a double-winged vixen, and she used her powers to overcome that of Calvaughn Jr. The Clincalow was shocked by someone was beating back Calvaughn Jr., but they were also shocked by a mighty warrior named Zim had appeared. Zim was a powerful warrior from the days of Scholastica, and now had been resurrected to work for Queen Alexia. He beat back Booker and Moxie and Jenny, and the artillery fire from Sugonian had defeated Dora and Wendia. The Clincalow were collapsing right before Calvaughn Jr.'s eyes. Calvaughn Jr. went to full power to kill Queen Alexia, but Queen Alexia simply brushed away his sword and beat him to the gut, grabbed him, fly him all the way up and start blasting him with energy blast, grab him, swing around, and did a body slam, defeating Calvin Calvaughn Jr. And thus she used her powers to purge all of the universe but a single planet, where at last, finally, this new hero, the legend of old that was around since the eon of the very first universe, can now make the new universe hers and whole, in peace under her rule. The story is finally over. But however, a traveling KGM being traveled through time and space to revamp this timeline and to make a whole new single universe where the whole story will start all over again. And this story will be the story which leads all the way to the legendary fighters. And this is the universe in which legendary fighters happen and everything else I did up to grand finale where I had returned, regained my memory, defeated the Colonia, and ruled the universe. So this is all my paper stories finally done for you guys, whoever sees this, or mostly myself, to enjoy. Every single paper story I've done since a small child up to this very point has finally been uploaded, finally been recorded. Bench and Utopian Goggles, I never recorded them, I've written them down, but I drew with a book. This is amazing. I just give God a thanks and glory. 2021 is going to be a great year for papers. God spares our lives.